good evening and hello to Dr. Razwan and my friends. My name is Dharamini daughter of Mohanathan from Band 6A. Today I'm going to present my research proposal entitled An Analysis of Indian Culture Portrayed in a Hollywood Movie, The Mistress of Spices. Without further ado, let's begin. The proposal consists of 3 chapters, chapter 1, chapter 2 and chapter 3. Okay, the first chapter is the introduction. Introduction consists of few subtopics, which is interest and personal background, contextualization of study, problem statement, purpose of the study and research questions, and last one, the structure of the thesis. Okay, let's go one by one. The first one is the interest and personal background. Media play out a few critical capacities in our lives, including molding our conclusion about ethnic minorities. Without intercultural context, individuals have a tendency to trust a media portrait of minority representations as exact, in spite of the fact that it has been built up that the media are instrumental in spreading prevailing belief system. So this make me interested in doing a proposal that examine the portrayal of Indian culture and the characters that portrayed in a Hollywood movie. Okay, moving on to the contextualization of study. I talk about what and how Indian culture nowadays, and it's no longer how it was before. So it has changed a lot in so many perspectives in a good terms, and I also want to attract people to know more about the real Indian culture through this research study. Okay, moving on to the problem statement. The problem statement of this research study is to analyze the portrayal of Indian culture in this Hollywood movie and acknowledge the people with the understanding of the real culture that has been changed long ago. And for the research questions, there are 3 research questions. Okay, the first one is how the Indian culture is portrayed in the film The Mistress of Spices. And the second one is how do the identity of the character is reflected in the film. And the last one is to what extent does Indian culture is reflective to the real culture portrayed in India. Okay, the last one is the structure of the thesis. All through this research, a compromise of 5 chapters. Okay, the first chapter is the introduction. It's an outline of the research. The second one is the literature review, the section where it's centered on the theoretical framework. And the third one is the research methodology, which will share with reference how the research is done. And the fourth one is the data analysis, which will be clarified, encouraged in detail on the information that have been classified. And the last one, of course, the conclusion, which compromise the general research of this part, and this is where the research questions are being answered. Okay, that's all for the chapter 1. Now let's move to chapter 2, which is literature review. Personally, I had a hard time doing literature review because the topic that I choose is not that famous or well known. And I was having hard time when it comes to the reference, because there are not much thesis that or journal that researchers has done on this particular topic. But I managed and did find a few good ones that are related to my topic. Okay, there are a few journals. Okay, the first one will be from Louis Overgaard, who did an analysis of Indian culture in an era of globalization. in his research, he did talk about Indian culture, and he concluded that culture plays a pivotal role in the development of any country. And the Indian culture has never been rigid, and that's why it is surviving with pride in the modern era. It timely imbibes the quality of various other culture and comes out as a contemporary and acceptable tradition. This is what is unique about the Indian culture. It moves on with the time. Okay, the second research is done by Priyanka Aich, who did a research on the representation of East Indian women in recent mainstream Western cinema by undertaking critical discourse analysis of 5 contemporary Western films. In her thesis, she mentioned that cinema is a complex ideology apparatus because of its reflective nature and its enduring popularity. And the third thesis is done by Tuti Zakia 2010 on identity analysis of Indian descent in America. Okay, this particular journal did help me a lot in doing my literature review, even though it's not exactly about my topic. Okay, regarding identity, the researcher intended to give an understanding of what identity is and how India descent deal with their identity in America. The writer describes and analyzes the identity conflict dealt by India descent in America reflected in the movie. And the last thesis will be by Meera Kumar 2008, who did on regarding transmission of culture through the film. She mentioned that it has brought to the forefront a significant but under-respected group, highlighted this group's diversity and culture nuisance, revealed how the portrayal of such nuisance lead to the subversion of stereotypes, and emphasized how through the act of self-representations. Okay, that's it for the literature review. Let's move on to the third chapter, which is the research methodology. Research methodology consists of few subtopics. Let's go by one by one. Okay, the first one is research approach. In research approach, I choose ethnographic research tradition. Ethnographic research is a subjective technique where analyze watch as well as associate with an examination's members in their genuine condition. Utilizing ethnographic strategy, you place yourself in a strange position. It's a foreign country with a new language. You, as for now, feel like the outcast coming in. Utilizing ethnographic strategies, you should relinquish your own assumption and suspicions about a gathering of individuals so as to get the hang of anything about them. You can't take a gender at them a similar way you take a gender at individuals in your own particular culture. Okay, moving on to the population of the study. The population of the study focus on one trait of material within the Mistress of Spices film. The trait will focus on audio, visual, objects and characters. Okay, the sampling method. The Mistress of Spices film will be the sample for the research. I have selected the film for the sampling method of convenience sample. And moving on to the data collection, the research data accumulations for this investigation is continued on the film, which is the Mistress of Spices. The gathering of information will be done through substance examinations, non-printed substance. For example, sound, visual, questions and characters will be investigated to fit in the exploration. Moving on to the research instruments. In the research, I use myself as the main instrument in collecting the qualitative data about the Indian culture portrayed in a Hollywood movie, The Mistress of Spices, in some ways, such as watching the film many times very carefully so that I can understand the story, identify the identity of the character from the film scenes, and making notes taken from the scenes that supports me to analyzing the data. The Mistress of Spices film will be the sole representative for the conduct of the research. Okay, moving on to the data analysis. Based on the method that is utilized, the data will be analyzed by using the concept of identity by the following steps. Okay, the first one will be identifying the identity of Indian culture character presented in the film as a part of the role. And the second one will be analyzing how the real Indian culture is reflected by the character in the film. The last one is significance of the research. Okay, hope this research can be beneficial for the readers who want to know more about what is Indian culture is. I also hope that the reader can expand their knowledge about cultural studies, hoping to more literary works are chosen by using the theory of culture studies. Okay, that's the end of the 3 chapters. I hope I did it right, and hope all goes well. Thank you and have a nice day.